Okay, so I started off with an introduction, so hi, if we haven't met yet, my name is Taiga, and I'm a recent graduate of LMU, and I'm excited to have this conversation together today with all of you. And as I look back on my time at LMU, I look at how much I've grown over these past 4 years. All the gifts that this place has brought me, and I'm sure a lot of other people will share with me that the greatest gift that this place has brought are the people. I look back at my own O-leaders. Now her name is Bree Childs because she just got married. She was in Sursum Corda. And then Alejandro Llamas, who soon after became my own fellow Modus brother. And the people I've met, the mentors, like all the O-leaders that already are and are going to be to the incoming class, are the reason why I stayed at LMU for all 4 years. But throughout my time here, I see all the graces and all the blessings, but I also look at all the struggles of how sometimes there's something that just burns inside of you, something that you knew you needed to do, and it was important, and it was critical, and it was essential to your life. But somehow, even though you knew it was important, you kept putting it on the back burner. Not because you meant to put it off, but because it wasn't as urgent as something else that came up that was far more urgent. And you kept finding yourself from one urgent thing to another urgent thing, and this important thing that you needed to do just kept getting further and further and further to the back of your agenda. And if you're anything like me, this happens all the time. Something that's so vital to me gets covered by something that I need to get done for my organization, or my job, or for a friend, or rarely because of homework. But these important things kept getting trampled by these urgent things, and it was squeezing out these opportunities, and I look back to see that I have these important conversations I know I would have had, but never did because I lost the opportunity. Because sometimes this important, vital thing that we need to do is to make sure that I take care of myself. Sometimes it's that I need to recognize the beauty and love around me. That in the midst of all the craziness and urgent things, during training sessions or school, I need to take the time to take care of myself, to see the beauty of companionship, and to see the potential in myself, so that I can see that everything that I do is a yes or no to love. Because we as human beings travel alone way too often in life. We move by ourselves, and we even elevate other people if they don't need anybody. We watch shows and we see people all around the world and we go, that's what it's like to live free. That's what it means to live strong, or that's what it means is to be powerful, is to never need anyone. We tend to give credit to individuals instead of a people. But what's crazy is that for so long, we as individuals, we travel either physically or emotionally alone until we hit that pivotal moment where we travel together with a family. We have these moments in our lives where we travel solo, but what we're made for, what we're designed for, what we're created for is to travel together in community. Back in my first years of college, I seeked a lot of independence. I wanted to be a one-man band. But again, in nature, we see that even in animals, they move in tribes, they move in packs. We can look at wolves, because wolves are the top of the food chain in the American West. But if you run into a single wolf, you're going to be okay, because that's called a lone wolf, right? And lone wolf just sounds really, really cool. Chuck Norris has a cigar brand called Lone Wolf, and Chuck Norris is the lone wolf. And he's amazing. But what lone wolves are that they're wolves that have had a battle or a conflict with the alpha dog. And because of that, they've been ostracized from their tribe. So if you ever run in the wild and see a wolf, and that wolf runs away from you, it's a lone wolf. Because one single wolf can't do anything to you. One single wolf actually loses its capacity to go on hunts and become powerful. One lone wolf loses the power that it had while it was moving as a pack. So if you're in the woods and a wolf runs away from you, it's by itself, and it's broken from its pack. But if it faces off to you, you should probably start running. Because if a wolf faces off to you, he knows he's not alone. He's not by himself, because the power is in the pack. Before college, I grew up alone. I grew up in a broken family that fought over and over and experienced domestic violence in the family growing up, even to a point where I had to move out when I was 14. I spent some time hopping around friends' houses, spending nights on couches while I went to high school. And I gotta admit, I liked school. It was a reprieve from life, except for this one little thing named Ben. He was this small, scrawny Korean kid that would just bully me the entire time. And we got into the chamber choir together, and how my choir works is that over the summer, you have to practice, and then the first week of school, it's all testing. So if you don't pass the test, you get kicked out. And this one day during practice, he comes over, and he always walked. And this one day it was raining, and he was about to leave and walking in the rain, and I stopped him and I said, "Hey, I'll get you a ride." Being stubborn, he said, "No, don't worry about it." And I myself am pretty stubborn, so I said, "Yeah, don't worry about it, I'll get you a ride." And so I told him I'd follow him until he let me get him a ride. So we walked in the rain for about 3 miles. Both of us were dripping soaked from the rain when we stopped in front of this janky, rundown Chinese acupuncture shack that sat next to an alleyway and a Pizza Hut. He pointed to a small apartment in the alleyway and told me, "This is where I live. I don't want people to drop me off because I don't want them to know my lifestyle. I don't want them to know how I live." I'd later come to learn that he carried a noose in his backpack every single day to school. Because when I closed myself off to him, it was easier for me to shut him out and put him aside. But when I received who he was and who he could be, my notion of him changed from being a bully to him being a friend I love and care for to this day. This guy would come to help me redefine what family meant to me and what love meant to me. And the night before I left for LMU, we're having a heart-to-heart in the apartment, one of those 5 a.m., all-night conversations. This is the first time he told me about the domestic violence he grew up with, and the 3 times he tried to take his own life before. And he turns to me and he says, "Do you know what the biggest thing you've done for me was?" He said, "The thing that's meant the most to me, the thing that made me throw away the noose, is asking me if I wanted to get food when I was hungry." Asking to get food. Out of all the things, just asking. What he was describing wasn't the giving that I had done. It was the kinship. Seeing the brokenness inside others and receiving it to reveal the brokenness within ourselves. Compassion. Father Greg Boyle says that compassion is not something that you do. It is not something that you can give. Compassion is allowing yourself to be reached by the other. You allow yourself to do it. It's about how we receive other people. Because too often we ask, "What can I do for you? What can I give?" But rather, allow yourself to receive, and allow yourself to receive the entirety of another being. Allow yourself to be reached by people, as each of you have been received by the people here. Because there's no humanity with just one person. And that transition from humanity, from a person to a people, occurs when I made this choice that said, I'm done being a person. I'm done being a lone wolf. Because as cool as that looks like from a distance, it sucks up close. Everything that I do is a yes or no to love. Just the other day, I was playing peekaboo with my niece, and I couldn't help but think of God's love as I noticed her big brown eyes staring at me. I would cover my hands, and she would think I disappeared, and she looked at me as if I was a magician. I put my face behind my hands, and then reappear again when our eyes met once more. And I looked back at times where I had this infant-like faith, only seeing love and only believing in people when something good happened right in front of me, when I can see it, and then falling back into disbelief when our eyes don't meet anymore. But at the same time, I'm also brought to the idea that in another way, God is like my niece, staring intently, searching, willing to wait forever until I unblind myself to him. He waits until the moment I move my hands away from my eyes so that he can rejoice when our eyes meet once more. Because for so long I had my own eyes covered by my own hands. My closed-mindedness had hardened my heart to seeing a world of love. For so long I had been caught up in the idea that seeing is believing. And even growing up, and especially being a science major, I always had this concept reinforced. I asked for evidence. I asked for the fossils to believe in dinosaurs. I asked for the gold medals to believe in myself. I asked for the letters from friends to believe in their love, and I asked for the miracles to believe in God. I failed to recognize that sometimes I must believe in order to see. Because when I believed that something as simple as playing peekaboo could be a gateway to love, I came to see that love has been waiting for me all along. I had to start paying attention to what happens to me every single day in the ordinary things, because I live an ordinary life. So I'm going to find insight and meaning. I must look at the ordinary and within myself. It is only then that I recognize that I will come to see that everything that I do is a yes or no to love. During this past winter break, over Christmas and New Year's, I went backpacking in Guatemala. I was able to find some work in exchange for food and shelter, and so I spent my few days working at an orphanage with children with HIV. During snack time, this 8-year-old little girl named Kaylee made me eat with her. She grabbed my pinky with her small hands and dragged me out to the playground. She climbed into this dome-like structure made of metal rods and quickly motioned for me to follow. After getting stuck a few times, I finally got inside and sat down. She ate her strawberries, wiped her Cheeto fingers on her pink shirt, and she asked several questions in Spanish. I have no idea how, but somehow we ended up asking each other simple math questions. She'd ask me what 5 plus 3 was, trying to throw me off, and I would answer 8. And then I would ask her a math question. She counted on her fingers, and then she asked me what 14 plus 16 was, and I quickly replied 30. She then counted on her own fingers, looked back at me, and said, "I don't know. I don't know if you're right." And then after that, she ran to the hose, and she brought over a little tea set. It was tea time. And we had these little cups, and she went over to the hose and filled up the little teapot and filled our cups with water. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to get sick if I drink this water. I'm not supposed to drink the tap water here. And so I reached for the cup, and she quickly said, no, not yet. I have to go get the milk. So she ran back to the hose, and she poured more water into my cup. And I remember thinking to myself, what am I going to do? I can't disappoint this little girl, but I can't drink this water. So I reached for the cup again, but again, she said, no, not yet. And I was thinking to myself, what else is she gonna give me? She's gonna feed me rocks or something. But she said, no, we can't, because we have to pray. And so she grabbed my hands, and she started praying in Spanish. I don't really know what she was saying or what she was praying about, but I just sat there and took it in. I was there, and I was sitting there, and I was thinking for the right words to say, but I couldn't think of them. And before I found the right words, she took her cup, and she downed all the water, and she looked at me, and I quickly panicked. I quickly changed the subject, and I asked her, what's your favorite subject? And she said, story time. So I told her to go grab her favorite book. And as she left, I quickly tossed the water to the side in a bush and put it down before she got back. I asked, what book did you get? And as she sat on my lap, she said, Jesus. She handed me a Spanish Bible. And I sat there and I read this Bible to her as she sat on my lap. And to be honest, I can read Spanish, but I don't really know it that well. So I was reading her, the Bible, and she would ask me what some of the big words meant, and I had no idea. And I just sat there and I read to her for about an hour, and I began to cry. She looked at me and just rested her head against my chest. There's no humanity with just one person. Because what I've often learned and what I've been often told, is to don't spread yourself out too thin. And I'd agree for the most part when it comes to organizations and commitments. But there's a difference between giving and receiving. And receiving should not be limited. If it was, then who's the cutoff line? Your brother? Your best friend? At what point do we say, no, I'm sorry, I just don't have enough room to receive you? We have to spur one another towards love and good deeds because life is hard. Sometimes life punches you across the face. Life's difficult and there are urgent things after urgent things that get tossed my way. And sometimes I just get really overwhelmed. And I say I don't have time for people. I don't have time for community because life's punching me in the face and I just can't. I get busy and discouraged and I don't want to be together in community. And often somebody would sit across the table from me and say, I'm just having a really hard time at school or work. And then I would say, yeah, let me tell you about my problems. And the hope and consolation and love that they were asking for would hit like a thud on the ground while I told them my problems while theirs glazed over. You see, because sometimes when someone tells me something difficult going on, my job isn't to tell them my problems. It's to inspire them to live their life. That my job isn't to play the my problem is bigger than your problem game. My job is to encourage. My job is to inspire. My job is to receive their story. To say, tell me what that's been like for you, and receive the entirety of who they are. Because even how we receive others can be a choice to love. To look at every challenge in their life and to say that I'm not going to quit. This is not going to be something that's going to discourage me, and I'm not going to stop because I have a hope that is bigger than everything. I have a community that's going to burst with love and joy in everything that I do. And through that, through providing love, you clothe yourself in the act of clothing others. And every so often, your soul finds love as you're giving love. For me, it required me to do kind of some weird things. I had to look at every person in my life and look at my role as having a responsibility of spurring them on to doing whatever it is that they do every day, of giving them a renewed sense of their own life. And it required me to receive it when it was given to me. This love, this hope, this lift requires that I do weird things like text each other late at night and text people in the morning, encouraging them to say that I just want to let you know how much you've touched my life. I just want to let you know what an extraordinary job that you do. I just want to let you know that you matter. What I've learned is the importance of both giving and receiving. I'm going to tell you right now that it's not the natural thing to do in society. It's easy to love and give love and forgiveness when we apply it to the poor. But it's harder to do it amongst our own peers. It's countercultural to dissolve the lines and borders that we put around love. But I challenge you to live this life of love. To say yes, to live and love more. So much love that no one will have any idea of what to do with you. They'll watch with a confused look and wonder why you love so much and don't ask for more in return. Because there's nothing quite so important as emptying our hearts out every single day, leaving nothing undone. No declarations of it unsaid. Don't just stop and smell the flowers. Plant them yourself and watch them grow old with you. Pull over and dance in every single rainfall. Make snow angels even when there's hardly any snow left for the wings. Never ever believe in the words too late, because it's never too late to be exactly who you wish. Do exactly what you should, say exactly what needs to be heard, and live the exact life you should be living. because everything we do has the potential to bring us closer to love. So often we see love as an emotion, but I think of it as a disposition, a state of being. Because when we're in love, we are self-giving, we are faithful, we want to be with and for. And in our small group, one of the participants said that the idea that no man is an island. And it's because love has no borders. And so I wanted to end with a prayer from Father Pedro Arrupe. Nothing is more practical than finding God, than falling in love in a quite absolute, final way. What you are in love with, what seizes your imagination, will affect everything. It will decide what will get you out of bed in the morning, what you will do with your evenings, how you spend your weekends, what you read, whom you know, what breaks your heart, and what amazes you with joy and gratitude. Fall in love, stay in love, and it will decide everything.